Move on to the panel now, and I'm going to welcome up here Susanne Gløersen, the founder of the Future of Fungi Awards, Quentin Loth, an engineer at Bosc Foods, and Guillaume Lopez, the founder of ZENNO. If you'd like to come up and take a seat. Hi there. Thank you so much, everybody. I did have some fun facts lined up, but we're going to jump straight into the discussion, if that's okay for everybody. Fantastic. So, Susanne, if we can start with you, that would be lovely. What are the Future of Fungi Awards? What was the inspiration behind them?
So the Future of Fungi Award backdrop. I'm coming from sustainability. In 13 years, been in finance and investments, and learn about all the ways we can use fungi for environmental solutions. It was just mind-blowing. But still, it's still early. We mapped 4% of fungi globally. There's so much more we can use fungi for. And for me, being very adventurous, that's so fascinating. So the biggest breakthroughs we maybe have in front of us. So what more can we use fungi for? It's the last, frontier of biological discovery. So the award is set out to uncover and really honor the new and frontier ways we can use fungi to solve some of our largest environmental challenges. So honoring research and startups. And also to give a voice to this less communicated, sometimes less understood space. So we want to close it up. We want to uncover the new ways we can use fungi. We want to help commercialization of more research. We need to get more research off the ground in real-world solutions, and to inspire to new moonshots. And we have one of the winners from the award with us today, speaking later.
Oh, very exciting, very exciting. Quentin, so Bosc Foods started in a car garage, which is pretty cool. Now, we all know we can eat mushrooms, but how else can fungi enhance our diet?
Yes, so the way we set out to think about our diets, our Bosc Foods, we recently looked at mushrooms the way they exist today, and we all have consumed champignons, pleurote, chanterelle, and so on. So we know how to use this in our plates. When we set out to start Bosc Foods, we thought, okay, what is a big problem we want to solve? And we looked at our plates, and specifically what was in the center of our plates, and the impact that this had on the environment. I'm talking obviously about meat, which plays a big part in our diet. What we saw, like Mazen presented very well earlier, is that this has a huge toll on our climate. And we thought about fungi as this tool to essentially solve this by recycling upcycled side streams, so essentially what we could call waste or food waste, and turn this into a protein that will be able to mimic a different kind of food. For instance, something that can have the texture and the taste of meat, but made of fungi. So we talked about mycelium earlier. There's many different ways to grow mycelium. The way we do it at Bosc Foods, we essentially grow the texture, which is made of the root network of the mushroom. When we say mushroom, we mean the fruit. Mycelium is the roots, which is usually in the soil. The way we grow it at Bosc Foods, we grow it outside of the soil, and we harvest this in order to get to a texture that is so close to meat, to resemble muscle meat, that we can essentially marinate it in very simple steps and turn it into a chicken or a pork fillet. So that's one way that we thought about solving this big climate issue with fungi.
Fantastic. Now, Guillaume, you know a lot about mushrooms and fungi, but what I want to know is, how on earth are fungi and soil health related?
Well, that's a very, very deep topic, because when we speak about health, we usually think about minerals, vitamins. We think about like all these elements that we need to find in our food. But in fact, health is deeper than that. Is the link between the culture humans and nature, right? So if we have unhealthy people that inhabits our culture, then the nature will be not wasted, but it will be like I can't find my word. No, but I think you guys got what I would like to say is that when people are not healthy, then they will do whatever it takes to eat, and then the environment will be, hunted, basically. So mushrooms are actually like super important for the health of the soil because, first of all, our species is called Homo sapiens, right? Homo in the Latin root means the person from Earth because it was like opposed to gods. We were on the sky, right? And so there's this linguistic link between like Homo and then humus, which is the carbon stoking part of the soil, and humility. And that's very interesting to me because I think we've lost some of our humility when we speak about the environment. We tend to think of us as the master of the cycle. In fact, we're not. And I think that fungi have this strength to teach us humility back again.
Amazing. So I'm going to open one up to the whole panel here. We'll start at the end and work our way down. I want to know, well, we want to know something exciting about fungi that perhaps we don't already know. So if we can start with Quentin and work our way down.
Yeah, sure. So there's plenty of things. I guess what I appreciate the most working with fungi is the capacity to essentially use it as a tool to recycle pretty much anything that has carbon or nitrogen. So when we look at the process that we use to grow this new crop, mycelium, we essentially look at any side stream from the agri-food industry and think, okay, how can we repurpose that? And so I'll take you on a little bit of a scientific tangent there just to teach you what the process might look like. But essentially, you want to collect some of that agricultural waste and you want to sterilize it. So by sterilizing it, you remove most of microorganisms that might want to get to it to eat it and grow. By doing this, you then have a fertile soil for your fungi to grow, which is good. That's what you want because you're looking after one species that you want to grow on this waste. I refer to it as waste. It's not dirty or anything. It's just something that we don't consider as valuable. But fungi teaches us that we can upcycle this and turn it into something that's of extreme value. There's plenty of different ways to do this, but essentially we grow protein out of waste as opposed to growing it out of arable lands or animals that take years to grow and expend a lot of energy. So that's one thing that I think is particularly amazing with working with fungi.
And to add to that, Quentin says fungi is the best example of circularity. Right in nature, there's no waste thanks to fungi, which recycles waste and dead things into new things. So for me, there's so many to talk about. Obviously, we can thank penicillin, saving a lot of lives, and food. I mean, beer, wine, cheese, chocolate, to fungi. But for me, I'm very a bit science fiction. You know, there's studies on fungi having language. There's our professor Andrew Adamansky. He has mathematically researched electrical signals that fungi emits. That he decoded to 50 words mimicking actual language, which is super fascinating. So the mycelium network is maybe communicating to the further ends of the network where this food. We can make music from fungi. Taru Nayar, he connects an synthesizer to fungi and makes music. Last fact, in 1 teaspoon of soil, there's so much fungi. If you put the mycelium out, it can stretch from 100 meters to 10 kilometers, which is fascinating.
Wow, that's incredible. Guillaume?
Yeah, I love all those facts. And as Quentin and Susanne said, there's so much about fungi. And my favorite fact is something that I discovered late, is there's a substance called ergothioneine that is produced by fungi. It's an amino acid, and there's this question right now whether or not it would be a fungal vitamin. So basically that amino acid is produced mostly by fungi, and every single other organisms capture that from the environment and use it as an antioxidant. And it's so powerful that everybody needs it. And so what's interesting, and keeping in my theme of this link between soil, human, and health, so this ergothioneine, if your agricultural practices are not respectful towards soil life, then you will decrease the amounts of ergothioneine within the food, and which will obviously cause some problems. So there are studies that have been made, and population or culture where there's substantial amounts of fungi that is consumed, whether it's shiitake mushroom from Japan, or like even fermented food, which have like tiny fungi in it. They eat much more ergothioneine, and this is linked with less Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, like all the degenerative disease like that. And so to me, that's something we need to search more about.
Eat more mushrooms, absolutely.
Eat more mushrooms, right.
So the next question is, we saw the map from Myco Stories earlier. There's lots of different areas that it's being used in, but what are some of the most surprising use cases that we have for fungi at the moment? We'll start with Susanne this time, if possible.
So the science winner, for example, of the Futures Fungi Award, he uses fungi as a biobattery to store energy. We need more battery capacity, and we can use biology to store energy, which is quite mind-blowing. So he has a prototype from Aalborg University. We also saw self-healing materials. So not only, Adidas they uses leather from mycelium for shoes, but we can activate the living components of the mycelium or the fungi to repair, which is also mind-blowing. And Paul Stamets has done some work on also reducing bee mortality, which I really like. We need our bees, and fungi can help them in a good symbiosis. So that's some, but there are so many more. And it's not that new, but microremediation also, which Sean and Michelle will talk about. Using fungi to restore contaminated water and soil is super important. Yeah.
Amazing. Guillaume, do you have any surprising use cases to add?
Well, I don't think it's surprising for people here, but probably you've heard about like the use of psilocybin as a treatment for anxiety and many human conditions, like mental conditions. And I find that fascinating because I think that the way we interact with nature is also very much linked to our mental state. Mm-hmm. So I think that's something that is very, very interesting, and we should keep researching about that and find application for our societies.
Absolutely. Quentin, any surprising?
No, I think you guys covered a lot already. But on the self-healing part, obviously leather has been used, or it's been made from mycelium. There's also a building application where essentially if a part of a wall made out of mycelium composite breaks or is getting cracks, after it's been rained on, the mycelium will regrow and heal these cracks. So this is one application that's particularly interesting.
Oh, wow, I need that in my house at the moment, I think. It's falling apart. So we heard before with Mazen talking about his second wave of investment. So I'd like to know, what are some of the key barriers that are stopping the world realizing the full potential of fungi? So we'll start here and we'll work our way down the line. What are some of the barriers?
Like looking at mushrooms that are used for like medicinal purposes, what I found is that there's this novel food European directive, which is basically saying that foods that are not being used, like I don't know from like what amounts of time.
May 1997.
1997, right? Thank you. So you cannot have them. You cannot use them as food ingredients, and so that's a problem with many fungi because the European culture has probably lost his like medicinal usage of fungi, and so now if you look at some species that are widely used in Asia, and there's like plenty of research done about them, but you cannot actually use them for the health of people in Europe, and I would say that's a problem. Yeah.
I think Quentin here with Basque food is maybe also one of the best to talk about some of the challenges, but so I'll leave it to him. Scaling biology, living things in huge volumes, that's a challenge. These are living things. And also we discussed, but access to capacity, so bioreactors, right? You grow this in big bioreactors, and now a lot of companies or many wants to do that, so access to bioreactor capacity has also been a challenge, but I'll leave it to you, Quentin.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys covered two of the very big challenges that might scare away some investors, basically. So if the question is, what can we do in order to overcome some of these barriers, where if we talk about these novel foods application, which make access of certain species to certain markets difficult, then the pressure should go on the regulatory bodies to either fund more of the regulatory process so that it can happen quicker. I don't think it's a bad thing to have regulation. I think it's very positive for populations in Europe specifically. But obviously, if it takes over a year for a ingredient to be accepted onto the market, this is obviously a big hurdle. And then scaling, you're absolutely right. We're working with new crops, or we're using them in new ways. So what that means is R&D and CapEx in order to install the equipment to do this. That's something that we're tackling on our end with Basque by using a fermentation process that is unlike what 95% of competitors are using. So you mentioned bioreactors, which are a great way to grow protein, but they're extremely expensive since they're borrowed from the pharma industry. So the way we're trying to tackle this is by working with different processes and different adjacent industry that already have the tools that can be retrofitted in order to grow mycelium in a different way. But obviously, this is the let's say the preconceived notions that certain investors might have, that this will take 10 years and cost 100 million. But it's not, doesn't have to be.
So it won't take 10 years and it won't cost 100 million?
No.
Excellent. Well, I can invest then, because maybe in 10 years I'll have 100 million, but before then I don't think I will. Fantastic. So you can start in a garage after all, I guess, but it does then need to grow. So we've got our red light is coming up there on our timer. So I'm going to slowly wrap things up, and I'd really like to know from everybody, how can we overcome the barriers that we've mentioned before? And what is one of the things you'd like these wonderful people to take away from today's session? So overcome the barriers, take away from this session. And let's start with Susanne again, if that's okay.
Then I would say, how can you overcome barriers? So capital in this environment where it's challenging for startups to raise money. So I have a syndicate club where, together with angel investors, I invest in startups. So if there's anybody out there that are interested to invest in fungi startups, come talk to me, because these startups need capital so they can scale more R&D. And to take away, this is, as Scientific American says, welcome to the mycelial revolution. We're just beginning. This is, I'm so excited to see what we can see of more fungal innovation in the next years to come. And we're just getting started.
It is incredible, like what we know to what we can know. There's so much, so far that we can go. So yeah, it's super exciting. Guillaume, How can we scale these? How can we get over these barriers? How can we destroy them? And what should these people take away?
I will start with the later. I think that what I want people to know about fungi is that the mycelium is this link organism which is embodying the fundamental principle of ecology. And so when we think about ecology, we need to think about circularity and how things connect. And that's how mycelium works in the ecosystem. So I think that what's really important to understand is that we need fungi for the future, and we need fungi to make ecology something real. Yeah. And how to solve the current problem, I would say that in any case, the culture needs to be updated by individuals. So I would highly recommend people that are interested in fungi to take actions and start moving, and everything will follow.
And speaking of follow, of course, they can follow you on Instagram and find all of your tips and tricks on there, and find out all about wonderful mushrooms and so on.
Yeah, so there's a lot of videos about mushroom foraging, but if you're interested, so that's ZENNO.nature, so ZENNO, ZENNO.
And it's in French, right?
It's in French.
Well, it's good news because my mum loves mushrooms, she loves foraging, and she can speak French, so you've got a new follower right there.
Okay, thank you so much.
There you go. And Quentin, what do you think about these barriers, and what should everyone take away?
Yes, I mean, I can only second what my colleagues mentioned earlier. I think one of the key takeaway is we're only scratching the surface of what's possible with this technology, and we call it technology. It's really just nature, so it's a lot of R&D in order to uncover what this can do for us and what we can do with it. So similar to what Susanne said, absolutely, we need funding and capital. We need investors to keep getting interested into what are the possibilities, and we need startups to come up with great ideas into how to use this capital and turn it into something that makes sense. I mean, I'll preach to the choir here, but we are currently fundraising, so if you're an investor here in the public, please come chat. But I don't assume that most of you are, so what I can only say is learn more about this fantastic organism and come up with your own ideas.
Amazing. Well, we've managed to finish on time, which is incredibly impressive. I'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone for all of your insight. Do stay in touch with these wonderful folk. Follow the Future Fungi Awards, and if we could put our hands together for these fantastic folk. Thank you very much.